Kia ora guys, I recently purchased a Tomix track cleaner. I got it in the kind of see-through skeleton, officially titled skeleton style. I don't mind the blue, I just went for a skeleton this time. Currently got it running on DC power because I haven't modified it at all, just to prove that it worked. It's pulled by my only DC capable locomotive. It's the only one I haven't actually got that isn't DCC yet. I will shortly be doing a transformation to DCC, and I'll make sure I link the instructions that I follow in the video description. Anyway, here's what else you get with the Tomix track cleaner. You get the plain blue presentation box with lots of delightful Japanese writing on it. You get a bag full of little fiddly bits that you shouldn't lose, including a brush, a sponge, a needle for filling up the fuel tank, the reservoir with fluid cleaner, and a little black metal doohickey thing. I'm not entirely sure what that's for, and the clip to remove the brushes or vacuum bit with. You also get the spare discs. You've got very abrasive, not so abrasive, and two more of each, with each with the clip attachment bit underneath, so you don't have to manually stick and paste new covers on if they do wear out or get too dirty. You get the full Japanese instructions with images. Lovely. And also an English translation of the instructions with references to the images on the Japanese instructions. It's relatively easy to replace the pads underneath using the provided attachment. You basically plug it into the center there, so you hear a nice click, and then you gently pull it out, like so. Nice and easy. For the pads, you'll need to use the other end, because that's quite slip, and you basically shimmy that underneath the pad and lever it out. Quite straightforward. So put another one in. You just grab it from your box. Nice and easy. You've got the sprung side, you've got the cloth, and you just firmly but gently push it on like that. You also notice the dust reservoir is quite loose. This is for the vacuumed mess that comes out. On the top, you'll notice the motor pin. This is the reservoir, which has a little cap, and the on-off switch for the motor. Now, this on-off switch will become redundant if you change it to DCC, because you're actually circumventing that little bit of circuitry and controlling the motor via the DCC chip as if it was an engine, or basically any motor that you connected up via a DCC chip. What you'll have noticed is that when I pushed it in all the way. One thing I might recommend you do is just using the provided lever. Is just get it underneath there, pull it out a little bit so that it's still connected to the motor, but then put it on the track and let the track push it into the right height. That means the cloth will still be attached to the motor, but also then touches your rail. For the liquid cleaning, you also need the little black spongy bit that goes in wide side into the car, into the curved bit there, which doesn't focus at all well, and that is where the cleaning fluid would drip through and wipe your rails, and then the cloth would then scrub it up a bit. You can use the cloth without the cleaning fluid if you so wish. That's what I will do at the moment, because I haven't actually ordered any cleaning fluid in. As you can hear, the spongy bit makes quite a bit more racket because it is actually in contact with the rails. But it does seem to cope quite well, even with my rather poor track laying. And after mere seconds of cleaning, you can already see the pad is a little bit dirty, so it's about time this arrived then, I guess. So, by the time I got to this stage, I decided to go to bed because it was very late. But what happened was I destroyed the only two DCC harnesses I had, trying to bend them into the gap between here, there, and the case, and then also managed to destroy two DCC chips, which of course I was pretty grumpy about because they're not cheap. Even the cheapest ones are about $30 New Zealand. So I just went to bed in a bit of a sulk. However, I then, before I did actually go to sleep, I bought two DCC chips from Lens with wire harnesses rather than plugs. So I expect that I'll just wire them in directly. Huzzah. What I actually ended up doing, though, in an attempt to get it going, was I shaved out a bit of this. It's not used for anything because the connection points are two of my thumbnails. You can see one of them slightly burnt out because I removed the solder, and then the two at the top. So the chip bit at the top isn't actually used for anything, so I just shaved it out of the way so I could get the chip into the gap. And also in the bottom, in my attempts to find more room there for the harness, I shaved out a bit of the weights, and they're also the contacts, but because they're just solid block, it didn't matter too much. Fortunately, this was mostly in vain. So if you're going to do this yourself, you probably won't need to do this if you are going to solder chips directly to the board, which is from now on my recommendation, unless you can find chips with particularly soft pins that bend nicely, or you can find pre-bent ones. Good luck on that. I had a quick look, I couldn't find anything, so I've ended up having to get 8-pin decoders, which is slightly more expensive, and I have now two functions that I can't use, so maybe I will set up some lights or something, who knows. It might become a works fan with a super halogen kind of light for the workies, who knows. Anyway, when I get the chips in, I will continue the rest of the video to show you how I soldered that and put that together and how it works afterwards. As far as you're concerned, though, it'll happen in about a second. Pop. So, this is now a couple of weeks later, and I got it working. I bought, not the lens decoder, which I was looking at, I actually got one of these. Tiny, tiny, tiny thumbnail for scale. And just to prove it's working, Bachmann DC controller, nice and easy. Okay, I haven't got any of the attachments underneath at the moment. So, works on DC, but you're thinking, well, anyone can do that. You might not have done anything at all. So, just to prove it works, I'll just plug it into my other Bachmann controller. This time it's the Easy DCC controller. Turn to number 3. Just to prove that it wasn't a trick. Yep, there you go. So, chipping worked. I will shortly give you the time lapse on how I do it on the next one, because I'm doing the second one. And hey, so it isn't that bad. You just about make out the chip there, but I am getting the skin for it from ElectroRail. They have a nice BR blue covering to make it look like it's a normal wagon. So it kind of looks like that, but it'll be in BR blue. So they come in a range of different colours. So huzzah! Okay, so just a heads up. When I soldered it all together and put it back and screwed the wheels on and such, after a while it stopped working. I may have dropped it or something. Anyway, what I discovered was that the metal that I had soldered the wires to had actually snapped away from the chipboard that it's part of. It just snapped off. So my soldering was fine. The wire was still in the solder, still connected to a piece of metal. Just that metal had snapped a bit. So I resoldered it further up, and it was fine again. It hasn't had a problem since. But just to be aware that that could perhaps happen. Not to put too much tension on the wires from the solder points. You can buy replacement chip bits that you can plug into. You can plug normal DCC chips into, so that you don't have to do soldering, so that you don't have to file down anything. You just literally replace it outright. But these were a bit more expensive, and I didn't need that when I can do it myself. It was a bit of a learning experience, and it was good fun. So just need to put the wraps on it, the vinyls, which I have, and we're done. And there you go, there's the chip in the end bit. I hope this was marginally helpful, if not, at least a little bit entertaining. Alright, bye!